The best of Money Matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin, Jeong. In just 2 days, we've seen two huge shakeups in Singapore's telecom scene. First, Keppel is selling the telecom arm of its subsidiary M1 to rival Simba Telecom for $1.43 billion. It's the first big consolidation in Singapore's telco history after years of liberalization that saw the lowering of mobile broadband and fixed broadband prices. Barely a day later, StarHub announced that it had taken full control of MyRepublic Broadband's broadband business. This means snapping up the remaining 49.9% stake in MyRepublic Broadband, as well as its key operational assets and brand in Singapore. So what's driving this sudden wave of telco consolidation? Is this the start of a much bigger reshaping of Singapore's telecom industry? And what does it mean for consumers? Well, joining us today to share more is Professor Lawrence Loh, who is the Director for Center for Governance and Sustainability at the National University of Singapore Business School. Hi, Professor Loh. Welcome to the show.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, Professor, why is Simba's acquisition of M1 being seen as a landmark deal for Singapore's telecom industry?
Yes, definitely. This is actually quite unexpected, unique. Simba is actually a new emerging player. M1 is very established. So it's almost like the tail wagging the dog, so to speak.
So what does this deal reflect about the challenges telcos here are facing? Has the rise of low-cost mobile operators played any part in the shift?
I think it's very important that, first of all, we have a competitive industry. And at the same time, many of the players will need to focus. For example, in this deal, we see that actually M1 is actually better off with Simba because it is part of a bigger family like Keppel, which actually also need to focus themselves. We see that this is actually win-win for both providers, M1 and the Keppel, as well as Simba. If the combined entity is part with Simba, I think the focus will be very much more apparent.
Well, market speculation had long pointed to StarHub as the key likely buyer and not Simba. Why did Simba emerge as the winning bidder instead of StarHub, you think?
Yes, I think that again is a surprise. But of course, StarHub, one day later, they have another takeover, perhaps in a different subsector. But you can see, the pieces are still under various permutations. You can see a rationalization, a consolidation taking place. And I would not even rule out that there will be more movement among all the pieces in all the subsectors of the telco industry.
Well, Professor, the deal is valued at $1.43 billion. So how does this valuation compare to similar telco deals in the region or globally?
Let's say if you just benchmark with the similar deal in Singapore as it is in, say, different subsectors. One is in telecoms and the other one is in broadband. The other deal is actually worth 105 million. So this deal is actually quite large. But if you look at global, the most recent merger took place in the UK. It was just actually completed at the end of May this year. Vodafone and Three. That magnitude is about 15 billion pounds, which translates to, say, 26 billion Singapore dollars, which is actually way above this 1.43 billion, manifold.
Well, Professor, Keppel said the proposed divestment is in line with Keppel's strategy as an asset-light global asset manager and operator. Now, they added that this will sharpen the company's focus within its connectivity segment on digital infrastructure. Help us unpack what this really means strategically. I mean, how does divesting M1's consumer business align with their larger ambitions in connectivity?
I think if you look at Keppel, they actually retain M1, fast-growing enterprise business. So in other words, the ambition in connectivity is quite different. The M1 business that they retain is actually more aligned with their existing data center and subsea cables. So in other words, what Keppel is trying to do is to retain those that have better connectivity, better synergy with what they have been doing on the larger scale. So, of course, by selling it, that they are able to, maintain that concentration of effort of resources.
Now, Keppel has said it's too early to know if retrenchments will happen. What's your take on how this will impact M1's workforce, Professor?
Yes, I think this is, of course, the most worrisome, the R word, retrenchment. And I think in any corporate restructuring, this may possibly happen. But I think in this case, we are seeing growth, we are seeing synergy. So in other words, these are factors that will mitigate the need to retrench. So I wouldn't say that retrenchment will play out so strongly in this recombination, restructuring.
Now, analysts believe that for mobile network operators now becoming three, we might see less aggressive price undercutting. So what impact will this deal have on consumers? I mean, what would less aggressive price undercutting mean for them over time?
I think if you look at the basic, normally when there's a reduction in the number of competitors, of course, the price might rise. But in certain cases, even if you have this reduction, if there's efficiency, if there's scaling, in other words, the benefit of the combination may be better, it might actually lead to a lowering of the prices. So in this case, I believe that the trade-off between the two factors, I might even say that the efficiency and scaling will be the major determinant. So in other words, you might actually end up with lesser price, even if there are lesser competitors.
Okay. I mean, Simba is known for its low-cost, high-data mobile plans. So if this pricing approach is extended to M1's customer base, how might rival operators respond?
Obviously, they will continue to have a price competition. We might actually have a price war coming up, which again leads to a lowering of prices. So I think from the consumer perspective, definitely it's something quite welcome.
Right. But I mean, Singtel remains the dominant player with around half of all mobile subscribers. Do you think a combined Simba M1 could challenge their dominance?
In the mobile market, Singtel is still by far leading in both the prepaid as well as the postpaid market. So this combination, I think, it will get there, but to uproot Singtel, we still need much more consolidation among other players.
Well, with fewer operators in the market now, should regulators also step in to keep prices fair?
I think they will have to continue to be alert. Right now, what we are seeing is that there's some self-adjustment by market. So in other words, the market is able to behave in such a way that the concern for anti-competitive practices is not there. But of course, you cannot rule that out. So I think the regulator will continue to keep a very tight and robust watch over the industry.
Well, in the latest update here, StarHub announced today that it has taken full ownership of MyRepublic's broadband business. Now, this move is the second act of a milestone telco consolidation here over just 2 days. I mean, StarHub already held a controlling 50.1% stake in MyRepublic's broadband business from 2022. Why make the move to full ownership now?
I think, of course, the main determinant or the main trigger point is they want to have better control of the broadband business because going forward, there are many other initiatives happening nationally and broadband is going to be a key factor in the success of any telco company. So full ownership will allow them to scale better, to reap efficiency better. And I think it really makes sense at this point in time to have full alignment through the full ownership of this business.
Okay, so how much of this timing is influenced by the broader wave of telco consolidation we're seeing, including the Simba M1 deal? Is this just a coincidence?
I think it's probably not a coincidence. In fact, I'll say this is probably the tip of the iceberg of things to come. We might see further rearrangement because the telco industry is complex. Technology is evolving very fast, and the range of new services that come out will be very much differentiated from the basic provision of basic broadband or basic, I'll say, mobile phone services. We are seeing new things that come out, IoT, cybersecurity, and of course, artificial intelligence. So all this will lead to, I'll say, more business responses.
Okay. So how does this deal position StarHub against Singtel then and the soon-to-be Simba N1 in the broadband space?
I think if you look at the broadband space, the grip of Singtel, even if they are the number one, perhaps it's a little bit less. So that the combination of StarHub with perhaps MyRepublic will actually give Singtel a run for the money. They might actually move towards being a co-leader very close to Singtel.
Okay, and before we let you go here, what do both of these deals signal about the future of Singapore's telco and broadband landscape, Professor? Could this attract new players into Singapore's market as well?
Definitely, I think new players are always on the watch on Singapore, even if it's a small market. The range of services that are needed would be more. So in other words, we do have competition, but I think my sense is that probably in the last few years, we have too much fragmentation. And sometimes this can be a little bit more, can be quite wasteful. And perhaps a little bit of consolidation will allow certain adjustment for synergy and efficiency. But at the same time, it is very important that the sector remain competitive.
All right, some great insights from you there. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was Professor Lawrence Loh, who is the Director for Center for Governance and Sustainability at the National University of Singapore Business School. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.